Chilly. It's supposed to be 75 today, but I think it's about 49 right now. Early chilly mornings here in North Idaho. Get that cold mountain air in the morning, and it is frigid, especially where I am. So yeah, don't get nauseous. I'm going over my driveway. Can't speak. All right, so off to work, off to chiropractor first. I think we're going to talk about people's, it's almost this acceptance of being an idiot. And I think a lot of people are in denial because they're too lazy. They're too lazy to gain knowledge. It's almost like, it's like a socialist identity over knowledge. They just kind of want to, they take what's given out to them and they accept that as what it is for whatever reason. I don't know, it's a meme on Facebook, or it's just too much work to go find the truth. And that truth can be anything from, simple truths to, how you should actually treat, a mild flu or mild sickness to, what's really going on in the universe. It can be as small or as large as it needs to be, and quite honestly, the smaller ones are probably the more important when it comes to your day-to-day life and how they affect you, in the short term, certainly. But you get on YouTube and you'll have some video that is, cat playing the piano that's got 40 million views, and then you've got something from, Cliff High over at Half Past Human that's got 40,000 views. And that I could use 1,000 different examples on either side of that spectrum. But basically, my point being is that people are totally fine being entertained. For the most part, the general population just being entertained. They don't really care to see past Friday night, to get through whatever little micro depression they're in, or to get that next high of a new relationship, or alcoholic beverage, or good time with friends, whatever it is. And I'm not trying to diminish those things. Those things aren't, those are impactful on your daily life. But a lot of people just accept that's the bubble they want to be in. And they're totally fine with just going about everyday life being overwhelmingly ignorant to most truths that are out there. And I'm not saying I'm an arbiter of truth, right? I take pride in trying to find new things that I, try to find new things in general and learn new, whether it's like new skills or whether it's just generalized knowledge that I have to throw out the window and relearn because it's not so generalized anymore. So a few of those things, that I've gone through is lived in Florida for 5 years and drank a lot of flippin' tap water. That was moronic. I thought, people who are just, doing that, filtering out that water, or didn't drink city water just in general down there, were, just being like overly cautious and it was no big deal and I can handle it. Well, it's nonsense. The chemicals, the chlorine, the fluoride, and the heavy metals, and the estrogen, and all that crap that's found in those municipal water supplies, especially down in Florida, because they nuke the crap out of that water. I mean, it tastes terrible. It's really bad. I mean, it's terrible for you. MIT and Harvard have both said that continued consumption of fluoride over a 10-year period can drop your IQ permanently by 10%. So it's a neurotoxin. It is banned in Europe. There's no reason to ever consume it. There's no reason to put it in your water. It doesn't help your teeth. It's part of a nationwide, really global-wide campaign to make the masses more lethargic and less intelligent. It does make you lethargic. Fluoride makes you lethargic. So, you know, that's just one example. Another example is it took me a long time to figure out that dairy products are not only were they bad for me, but I was allergic to them at the same time, and they're bad for everybody. You know, or pasteurized dairy products are bad for everybody. But it took me a while to come to that acceptance and do something about it. I've always been a skeptic, so those things, you know, once I flip a switch, it's been really easy for me to embrace. Sorry, I'm trying to see around this pole here. It's been really easy for me to embrace the change, because I'm always like, okay, well, that, you know, the status quo, I'm always skeptical of what normal is, or the status quo is, or what general knowledge, you know, we take every day as general truth. I've always been skeptic of most of it, and that's with good reason. I mean, social engineering through multiple different avenues has been going on for a long, long time. And if people actually just had a whiff, a 10%, you know, learned just a small amount of things they've been lied to about, they'd be astonished. Most of them probably wouldn't accept it. They don't, but you know, the human nature is a funky thing. We have these tendencies to just stay on a path that we're comfortable in, our little bubble, and unless our world is just rocked, then we don't ever change our ways, right? It's always that person who eats like crap, doesn't take care of themselves until they, you know, get a diagnosis of cancer, or whatever, heart disease. You know, I'm not trying to pick on one thing or one group of individuals that have suffered from something, but it's not until that moment that they decide to make life changes. Or, you know, you get the alcoholic who is drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking, and, you know, he falls asleep at the wheel, drives into the front of a convenience store and almost hits 2 kids, right? And like, that's the shit it takes for him to decide to quit drinking. You know, whatever it is, we tend, you know, unless our world is rocked, and then we need kind of constant reminders of that, even need support to stay on that path, unless you're more of a naturally strong individual, which many are not. So, you know, you can use this example 2008 as well. A lot of people got the shaft from the mortgage industry. They got totally screwed, lost everything. Or we're in the stock market, lost a lot of their money in the 401ks. Well, you know, a lot of those people, this latest run up in asset prices, totally forgot about the pain they felt 9 years ago. You know, and that's really dangerous. When you don't learn from the mistakes or from history in general, bad things happen, right? You're setting yourself up for failure. Because it's not like we tend to think, well, maybe that won't happen again. Maybe that was just a one-off, and we don't need to be concerned about that. You know, it's this denial, this inherent denial that we have. You know, and you see that in relationships, you see that in whatever. You know, maybe my abusive husband will, you know, what did I do? That was, you know, he doesn't normally beat me. You know, if I just show him a little more love, maybe he'll stop being abusive. You know, I mean, you could use examples. We don't learn, right? We just like stay on this path. So, you know, as you're scanning through YouTube, back to my original point, you're scanning through YouTube and you just see the dumbest crap. And then you have to get in your car, you know, you see the dumbest crap that's got millions of views. Then you got to get in your car and you drive around and just watch people. And I can tell you firsthand, and you'll understand this too if you start looking around. There is a lot of people that don't have a lot happening upstairs. They are, and I'm sure the instant gratification, iPhone, iPad, Facebook, Twitter world has only been, you know, has been a huge detriment to this condition, this like zombified condition that so much of the population's in, it's kind of frightening. It's kind of frightening. It's almost like a trance, right? Because I'm not saying these people are just stupid. You know, they don't have a mental disorder as far as I know. I'm sure some of them do, but you know, I'm not saying these people don't have the capability to be a lot more, but you know, we tend to we go with paths of least resistance that feel good in the moment. And it's not fun walking, you know, it's not necessarily, you learn a bunch of knowledge, you get more insight on how the world really works, whether it's, you know, finance, whether it's the geopolitical situation, whether it's, you know, those that run the show behind the scenes, whether it's the medical industry, whether it's big pharma, big agriculture, whatever it is, it makes you a very cynical person. Yeah, so you know a lot more and you know more ways to protect yourself, but you have to try and stay positive. And I'm on the upswing of being in the positive, of seeing opportunities and positive things from that knowledge, rather than the whole terrible sense of, you know, this whole thing's going to hell. Because that doesn't do you any good, because you can't control it. And we've had this conversation about controlling what your realm, your sphere of influence is. So, you know, even though, you know, you see all these dumb things, you know, what can I do, for example, as somebody who watches, let me just run off 15 people I watch. I've done this partially before, I'm not going to go into detail, but, you know, guys that do really good work: Greg Hunter, Cliff High, Bix Weird, Jason at 4, Sean at SGT Report, also at the Phaser and Liberty Mill. You got the guy over at Natural Stacks. You know, he's not into any of the, you know, he's just strictly into the nutrition side. Obviously Joel Salatin, guy up in Olympia, Washington, does Back to Eden gardening. Obviously Elliot, the famous gardener. You know, Curtis Stone. There's guys over there at, you know, James Wesley Rawls, guy Dunnigan over at Reluctant Preppers. Who else we got? We got, you know, Elijah Johnson. We got the guys over at Crush the Street, CJ and V at Rogue Money. You know, so all these kind of guys that have really good intentions of spreading knowledge and, you know, at least a version of reality that's closer than reality, that's closer to reality than, you know, what was our perception is of this thing that we exist in every day. You know, so I can't sit there and go, God, you know, these guys just had this amazing video and they got 10,000 views, and this idiot posted a, you know, I don't know, some, you know, spoof thing where he goes into retail stores and scares people and he's got 1 million views. You know, all I could do is just encourage people to tune into that channel and watch that, or post the link somewhere. So just try to be positive, do what I could, you know, do my part to try and spread it. And, you know, enough people do that, and that's working. I don't always like Alex Jones over at InfoWars. I find him kind of obnoxious, but for the most part, you know, he's fighting the good fight, and, you know, he gets more views than CNN, MSNBC, and Fox combined on a daily basis. So, you know, a part of the spreading is happening. A lot of Alex's stuff is super negative, which I don't particularly like. Not saying it's not true, but, you know, sometimes all that negativity is like, just kind of beats you down emotionally. But it also attracts people. If people think that things are going to hell in a handbasket, they kind of want to hear from somebody that, yeah, things are going to hell in a handbasket. It's like that reinforcing behavior. You know, and then Drudge over at Drudge Report. You know, these guys get a massive amount of traffic. And then you see the opposite side, you know, this, you know, just to speak to ESPN real quick, ESPN's customer is not 22-year-olds to 30-year-olds anymore, and they need to stop that. The social justice warriors that wear the skinny jeans, they're trying to participate in a political ideology that is supported by a group of people who don't know anything about sports. So that's why you're seeing the ratings decline, because when they do shit like don't stand for the national anthem, they're alienating the hell out of their core support group, which is why any of these social engineering projects by those kind of corporations and entities ends up biting them in the butt, because they are killing their demographic. I think the only person or the only group that is accurate in their demographic is NASCAR. I don't like NASCAR, but they are home of the rural, redneck, you know, blue collar people in this country, you know, waving the American flag. You would not see any of this crap even tried to happen in NASCAR. You wouldn't, because they're not idiots. They are a business. And as much as I, you know, not real comfortable in, you know, the racing realm, they know their identity and they're not idiots. So it makes them, even though people just view them as like dumb rednecks watching cars go around a circle, they're a hell of a lot smarter than ESPN. I can tell you that much. They're a lot smarter than the NFL. You know, at least from a business perspective. They know what the hell their target demographic is. And they're gonna, and, you know, they're not gonna try to pull this crap. And yeah, I get it. Okay, there's not a bunch of Latinos or black race car drivers, so the agenda doesn't really, you know, correlate over there anyway, right? But you know, this could be 100 different kind of social engineering practices that are going on. And but you know, anyways, not to go crazy off topic here, you know, my point just being that ESPN, and I sat at bars, right, out in Florida, and I'd listen to these, because I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up playing all the sports. My dad knew a lot about sports. And these people my age sitting around the bar, like, listening to them watch a football game would be the equivalent of, you know, a superstar singer listening to drunk karaoke night at the corner tavern. I mean, it's painful to listen to these idiots talk. And that's most of my generation is not extraordinarily knowledgeable about athletics in general. And especially the ones with this super leftist kind of agenda that they, you know, isn't even close to reality anyway. It's not how the real world works. But they've been kind of indoctrinated through their short attention spans to, you know, to make it seem that way. Or at least, you know, they perceive it as such and that they're doing something, but it's a shallow inability to critically think that allows them to be alienated in that way. But, you know, basically it just comes down to the fact that, you know, people don't want to critically think. They don't want to gain knowledge. They don't want to do things that might make them responsible for their shallow thinking. You know, if you go and you find out all of a sudden that the crap you've been feeding your kids for the last 5 years is probably the reason they have asthma, ADHD, an array of different kinds of allergies, or they're sick all the time, and all of a sudden you learn, wow, I'm a shit parent. Then you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, how did I not know this all those years? So, you know, people have a real problem with admitting these things, with having this accountability put on them, especially when it hurts that much, right? It hurts. I can't handle it. It's a real detriment to our society. We're weak. I don't have a problem saying it. It is my wife and my fault and my wife's fault that my son has the issues he has today. It is our fault. Because when we were born, he was not put in a good spot to succeed, both because of stresses and dietary issues that my wife had, during pregnancy and post-pregnancy. Formula we gave him when he's completely lactose intolerant, that caused a lot of these issues to arise. Now we're healing him and he's doing pretty darn good. A lot of people, you know, he's got certain aspects that are poor. The social aspect of interacting with other kids and stuff is not great. This is one of his worst sections, but academically he's very good. And so now it's our job, like yourself in the mirror, say, okay, I effed up. How am I going to give my kid the best life that he can, have? How can I recover him so that he can be a productive member of society and be happy, be fulfilled, have a family? So that's not now, it's my job, right? I have to do that. So if you're not able to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I screwed this up, I made a mistake, or even if you didn't make the mistake, but it's still your job to, or, you know, you got to be willing to take on the responsibility of making it right. And that's not, it's easy for me. I don't know why, I'm wired that way. But a lot of people aren't, and the accountability, maybe it's because I'm okay with being kind of miserable half the time. I'm just kidding, maybe. But it's important that people try to bust through this barrier, this apathy, this ignorance, to you know, not accepting that things are just because they are, the way they are is just because that's the way they are, and they always have been. You see a lot of this in the baby boomer generation. They come up with really stupid ideas. Like, I hate my son working with anybody over 40. So it's kind of like some realms, different generations are strong in, some realms aren't, because the people most people over 40 or 50 that are in this caregiver role of kids, they don't understand. They don't get it. They don't get that their generation, the processed foods, the garbage that was allowed to be sprayed on all of our food, the birth control, the antibiotics, you know, big pharma, and all this crap that has degenerated the human body to the point where it cannot function at a high level, is the reason where these kids are having all these problems today. So this old school mentality when it comes to these new issues that are rising in our youth, they're no benefit. They just go retire when it comes to this stuff. Go away. You're not being helpful. And that's not across the board, but I'm just talking about when I run into those kind of people in my son's life, when they interact, they just don't get it. So yeah, that's it for today. Try not to support the cat videos. Try to support people who are doing good things, even if it's from like an artistic approach. It doesn't have to be like this, you know, bringing, you know, deep dark truths to the surface. Talking about, it could be, you know, young artists, young musicians, anything that's kind of not what's forced in front of you by the corporations. You know, support that. All right, later guys.